You know that project you just really don't want to do? This is it. So here's the deal. 2001 Tahoe, it has a problem. You have to get up to about 25 miles per hour roughly and then let off the gas, let the RPM drop down, and then it'll shift, and now you've got second or third or whatever gear, depending on how serious of a problem you have inside your transmission. So if you're experiencing the same problem, what AMCO told me, which is a nationwide certified and respected transmission shop, is that the 2-4 band has gone out. Now, a good way to check this is if you drain your transmission fluid and you notice that it's kind of black or smells a little burned, that's a clear indicator that your band is burning. And the solution? Well, you can either go to AMCO like I did, pay $100 to find out what's wrong with it, and then pay $1,800 to $2,800 to get the transmission rebuilt, or hit up Craigslist for $350. Now, fortunately, the guy I bought this from shared with me some insider secrets on how to make the removal of the 4L60E go just a little bit smoother. Well, if you're coming down here to these little plastic plugs and you're noticing that you're not able to just simply click them out and pull them out, there's a reason for that. Apparently, GM put some kind of a little glue in here to keep water or whatever out of it. So in order to get those to loosen up, you need yourself a heat gun. And that information is going to become relevant a little later on, but for now, I'm going to grab just the basic wrenches, 10, 12, 13, 15, and 17 millimeter wrench, shove those into my pocket, and I'm going to go spelunking. And while under here, we're going to locate our oil pan and put our 15 millimeter wrench on there. Now for the time being, I've got the front of the vehicle jacked up, but when I start draining this out, because the plug is on the front of the pan, I'm going to drop the front end down and jack up the rear. So while that's draining, you got two choices to pass the time. One, you can either go get laid, or you can go check your Facebook status. Which one do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to go check my Facebook status. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That's exactly what I did. But anyway, you might be wondering, is it really necessary to drain the fluid? Yes, it is, because one, you've not only got these lines going to your radiator, which are going to be filled with fluid, you've got your torque converter, which is also going to be filled with fluid. And when you start taking all this stuff out, it's going to be a lot of fluid flying in a lot of places. So it's just cleaner if you do it now. And speaking of fluid, according to AMCO, the transmission itself holds about 5 quarts. The torque converter holds about 6 quarts. Now, I don't know how much is also in these lines here, but all told, I mean, you're looking at what, 11, 12 quarts, somewhere around there? So that's a lot of fluid you got to take out, and I've only got a 5-quart pan. But just remember that the torque converter is not going to start draining fluid until you actually remove it from the transmission. Now, before we go any further, I want to introduce you to my transmission jack. Very well worth the money. It was like $300 at Harbor Freight, and worth it. It's got a low profile design. It also has a high lift capability, so it can take the transmission out of that truck, for example. And it also has these little selectors here so that it can rotate the platform when you have this thing hooked up to the transmission. So it can rotate your transmission back and forth to help you finagle it to get it in or out of the vehicle. Its only drawback are these wheels. You have to have a smooth rolling surface in order to be able to use it. You can't use it in the dirt, for example. And that makes it very difficult for a backyard mechanic like myself, hence the plywood. Transmission fluid test. Smells a little burned. You can see a little bit of black discoloration in there. So the transmission definitely has to come out. We'll pop the hood just in case we need to get to anything through the top of the engine. Because again, this is my first time trying to take transmission out of something this big, but it does look like right here on the front of my radiator is one of those lines that goes down to the transmission. And it looks kind of like that one. So not only do we have this top hose, but I can also see a lower hose down there. And you may or may not know this about automatic transmissions, but they do have those two lines there coming off of the transmission coming up to the radiator. There's a separate spot inside the radiator so that the oil can get cooled for the transmission without interfering with the coolant that goes into the engine. However, manual transmissions are not as weak as automatic transmissions, so they don't require cooling. At least they don't require a bunch of hoses and connectors going off to the radiator, going off to some other junction box or something like that. So, which one's easier to remove? 6 bolts and shifter. Done. Hoses, electrical connectors, fluid, torque converter. So, do I want to create more of a headache for myself and have to try to remove these? No. You can see I was dreading this project, so I'm going to try to limit everything to working on just under the vehicle, which means I'm going to have to remove my connectors right off of the transmission. So trying to remove these oil lines over here, this is a 19mm wrench, and it's loose. A 3/4 is also just as loose, so I believe that's an 18, and I don't have an 18. Unless you count this. And if your donor transmission hasn't been drained, you're probably going to make a mess right here. And not only that, it appears that our thread here has some kind of a factory thread lock on it. So we're going to have to remember that when we put the new cables in. So even though I've got my 18mm equivalent, I can't access those hoses up there. Might be something that I have to take off as soon as I start to drop the transmission down. Oh, son of a bitch. Severe tire damage not included. There are bolts that we can get to right now, such as the drive shaft over here, which is an 11mm, and if you don't have one of those, you can use a 7/16. A couple of drive shaft love taps later, and nothing happens. A couple of drive shaft rape taps later, you like it rough. I see how you are. You hold your date by the hand, and come on. Get in the car, come on. There you go, I got free candy for you. Now, don't lose these. Put them back in there. So now I'm going to focus on taking off the bell housing bolts. There should be 9. I believe there's 2 on the bottom, 2 on each side, and 3 on the top. And I'm going to use a 15mm for that. And that particular task is turning out to be very difficult because it looks like I'm going to have to take off the exhaust in order to get some of those upper bolts. In order to get the exhaust off, I got to take off this rear cross member right here next to the tail shaft of the transmission. And in order to do all this, I got to take this off, the transmission cross member. Now, in order to do that, I got to put my transmission jack underneath the transmission to support the weight when I take out both of these cross members. Alright, so correction. The tail shaft back here, this little cross member here, you don't want to screw with it because right here, it follows down with, I believe this is called the torsion bar, and that is connected to your front suspension, so don't remove this one. Got to try to find some way of removing just this one so that we can try to get to these bolts up here, which there's no way to grab them from this side. There's only a way to grab them from this side, but I don't have extensions long enough to come way the hell back here where this pipe starts to bend. I could probably get to that one over there, but I can't get to that one. So we're looking toward the back of the vehicle. Here's the transmission mount, here's that torsion bar mount. When we come over to here, there's this opening here right underneath the transmission. Some trucks I've only seen had 1 bolt here, but mine has 2. And those are 15mm. After you get done taking those out, then you got to take these 2 giant suckers out. And this side is a 21mm. I don't know what the other side is, so I'm just using a crescent wrench. And those are some big ass bolts. God damn, Chevy, did you have to make that so difficult to get out of there? Or so heavy? Damn. Well, as far as that goes, I wasn't able to reach them. One of them would rather snap in half than be unbolted, and the other one would rather strip out than be unbolted. So with a little help from my 4.5-inch angle grinder friend over there, I was able to persuade the system to let go. Alright, so now we're going to try to undo our exhaust system here. Those are going to be 15 millimeters. Passenger side, I believe, is the 3-bolt going around, and I think the driver's side only has 2. Also, bear in mind that there are 4 oxygen sensors, 2 on each pipe. And that task is proving to be too much for this little Harbor Freight impact wrench, so I might have to go and get a bigger one. So, 249 foot-pounds from Harbor Freight wouldn't do it. Let's see if $249, 1,200 foot-pounds will. Alright, Harbor Freight, show me what you're made of. Shit. All it's doing is stripping that sucker out. Well, that was $249 well spent. If at first you don't succeed, spray more WD-40 on it. Hey, hot metal flying at me. Oh, shit. Let's try a different bolt. All sucker's doing is just stripping everything out. Very last option, return that overpriced piece of crap and find my reciprocating saw, which cost me what, 25 bucks? That'll get the exhaust out. Of course, I need new blades for that, which means I gotta go back to Harbor Freight anyway. Alright, it's not ideal. I am going to have to re-weld it back together, but at least it's down out of the way, and now I can continue. And I think I'll continue by taking off the front drive shaft. So, while trying to take out the front drive shaft, come back here to the transfer case. I guess this is some kind of a locking boot or something. I'm assuming I have to cut one of these suckers off of here. I don't want to cut it off if I don't have to. I'll look online and see how to remove those properly. Yeah, it looks like I was right. You're gonna have to try to cut that sucker, and then you gotta try to pry this thing off. Well, that was more of a chore than it should have been. All I did was just pry that little piece of metal until I was able to get the tin snips under it, snap it. Now I'm trying to pull the sucker off. Okay, now I think we'll go up to the bell housing and finish getting those bolts around it. Which is easier said than done because that is a tight fit all the way up and around. So this is very interesting. I don't know if I'm supposed to have a hose up here or what next to my oil filter, but it looks like all this oil that's all over this whole area is coming from whatever the hell this is. I don't know if there's supposed to be something up there or what the hell the deal is. Doesn't look like it's supposed to go anywhere. I don't see a missing hose coming down from up there, so I'm gonna have to look into that one. So this is the other 5.3 that I have. Let's see if we can see down there and see if this thing has it as well. Oh, it does have it. Oh, it has looks like a nut up on the top of it. Yep, it has a missing nut. I need to put a bolt in that other one. And supposedly you have to take off your starter, and before I climb back under there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the negative just in case that is true. Now I'm thinking that the reason they want you to take the starter off is because this little inspection plate right here is so small. I'm not sure that if you take that off, if you'll be able to get to those torque converter bolts. So maybe that's why they have you take the starter off, so that you have a much bigger opening on that side of the transmission, on the passenger side of the engine. Maybe that's it? And in order to undo the starter, you're going to need a 13mm socket. And with the starter finally down, out of the way, you can start taking off the electrical plugs so that I can actually get up in there. If you're having difficulty trying to remove this thing, what I did was, right here where the bell housing is where this part is. So what I did was I came back here to the back end of the starter and I pushed up into that area back over there toward the front of the engine on the passenger side manifold. Pushed it up into that area really hard until eventually this crown finally got past this lip over here. Just keep on pushing up and then eventually it'll and then come down. So with the starter off, should look like this. For the large connector it was a 13mm, for the small one it was an 8mm. And with the starter out, I'll probably take a wire brush to it and clean it up. Probably want to get the transmission out, take a wire brush up here and clean up some of this gunk. But for this little plastic inspection plate right here, we're going to have to get to this little bolt over here, which is a 10mm. And just as suspected, there's a torque converter bolt right there. Oh, I got a blue torque converter? Well, that's interesting, because my replacement one, it's that color. This one's painted. I'm willing to bet this transmission has been out of this vehicle before. Interesting. Interestingly enough, that torque converter bolt is just smaller than a 15, but bigger than a 14. So, I don't think they would change that up. Oh, it does have an Allen head in the center of it. Maybe it's a different size, or yeah, maybe it's not stock. Maybe that's what the deal is. If this transmission has been taken out, maybe they lost one. So yeah, maybe that's imperial and not metric. So you're going to need to be able to turn the engine around while you're getting to those torque converter bolts. There should be 3, assuming yours is stock, unless for whatever reason these guys put a 6-bolt torque converter in there, which is rare. Okay, remember that, rare. According to online specifications, those starter bolts should have been 15mm, but they turned out to be 13, and according to online specs, the end of the crankshaft should be a 24, but I've got a 22 here, and we'll see if that works. And since I can't reach that sucker from the top, you might have to come underneath the vehicle and take off this plastic lip just behind the front bumper. So it wasn't a 22, it actually was a 24, just like online specs said, which makes me think that whoever took the original transmission out the first time didn't put in the original starter bolts, so your starter bolts might be 15mm. Now, when you come over here to where the shifter is, in order to take this thing off, 1, it's a 15mm, and 2, you want to make sure that you keep that arm from moving, so I'm going to use a screwdriver right here, so that when I start torquing on this thing, it won't move this arm right here. Supposedly, if this arm moves and starts to push back this way, it can damage little plastic bits and whatever the hell else it's in here. So, put something up here while it's in park to try to hold that in place. But if that doesn't work for you, put the key in, drop the sucker into first gear, and now that arm should be pointed all the way back, so you should be able to torque on it now without having to worry about this going even any further. And now we turn our attention to the end of that shifter, over here. We got this little metal pin right here, hang on to that, don't lose it. And then it looks like you just squeeze these 2 little plastic tabs in. Push that through just enough, then it slides down. So I don't lose this thing, I'm going to put it in the one place I know I'm not going to lose it. So I'm under the truck, I'm taking off these little plastic protectors here so I can access that crankshaft up there. And it's amazing the things that you find under your vehicle. Never seen that Hot Wheels car before. What the hell's this one?
Looks like a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Wonder what else is up there. No diamond rings, no dollar bills. Just two Hot Wheels cars. What a fucking rip-off this truck was. Well, this is interesting. I'm trying to undo those transmission lines on the one that's still inside the truck. And I went out and got an 18mm wrench, and I put the 18 on there, and it doesn't fit. I put the 19 on there, and it also doesn't fit. 19's too big, 18's too small, so what the hell size is that? And it's not a 3/4, because that's just barely bigger than a 19, so what's smaller than a 3/4, but larger than an 18? You know what's even more screwed up? This is the size difference between all of these. This is the smallest out of the four. This is the largest out of the four. The two metrics are in between. Apparently there is no size that fits in between an 18 and a 19. So what the holy hell is going on with that transmission? This is the very reason why this video does not exist anywhere on the World Wide Web. I've checked forums, I checked YouTube, I Google searched, I Yahoo searched, hell, I even went to Lycos and I searched that. If you don't know what the hell Lycos is, Google it. Anyway, this project is so goddamn difficult. It's easy to see why nobody's ever tried to undertake it before. I seen one guy, he actually took the front of his engine apart in order to be able to get to the bell housing bolts. He took the heads off, he took the intake off. He pretty much disassembled the whole damn engine in order to get to the back of it. So this project is so difficult. Like I said, remember when I said at the beginning of this video, this is the one you don't want to do? Yes, it is standing, that statement is standing so true. Even as difficult as this project is, I still think it's insanely ridiculous that AMCO wants $3,000 to do it. Yeah, fuck that. I'm not taking that whole thing apart. There's no way in hell. I mean, I would rather just pull the whole thing out in one shot and then just unbolt it, bolt the new one up, and just shove it back in there. What the hell? It's interesting. My LS Swap Toyota has got the electronic one. This one's got the cable-driven one. What the hell? They're supposed to be the exact same engine. This is a 5.3, that's a 5.3. What the hell? Why is this one cable and the other one's electric? What? I mean, that one's 2004, this one's 2001, but damn, really? That big of a difference? I'm not seeing a scenario unfolding here where I'm going to be able to get to those bell housing bolts. I mean, I got to get to those in order to be able to wiggle the transmission out, and then after I do that, then I can get in there and start loosening up those lines and the electrical connectors and all that other crap. I'm not seeing that whole process continuing until I get to those bell housing bolts, which leaves me with one option.
Chief Gun Repair, how can I help you?
Yes, I'm trying to find out what you guys charge to remove a 4L60E out of a 2001 Tahoe.
Or just to remove it?
Either just to remove it, or I've got another transmission that's ready to go in. I'm trying to do the project myself, but it's turned out to be a major bitch.
Gotcha. And so you already have a rebuilt transmission ready to go into it?
Yes.
Alright. Shouldn't be a problem. What year is it, you say?
2001.
That would take it. Is it a deal with 4-wheel drive?
Yes.
Valve body weakening programming. Sometimes they do, sometimes they send them, just depending on where you buy it from, they send them pre-programs. Sometimes they don't.
As far as I know, it doesn't need anything.
Are you looking, probably with fluid, you're going to end up being right around $900 probably.
Just to loosen up the bell housing bolts.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet Christ, everybody got their fucking hands out, man. Just wanting money, money, money. Amco $3,000. Local shop $1,000. And that's not even to rebuild it. Amco wanted $3,000 to rebuild. These guys want $1,000 to take this one out, and the job's already half done. The fuck am I gonna do with this thing? There's no room. There's no way to get... I don't want to have to disassemble this son of a bitch. I want to be able to do it the right way. Just loosen up the transmission and drop it down. Did they design the Tahoe not to be disassembled? Is that the deal? God, I'm really fucking regretting taking on this project. Let me see if I can make a couple more phone calls.